Shadow found himself standing before what appeared to be an ordinary door in the middle of a dimly lit corridor. Mr. Wednesday's cryptic smile suggested this was anything but ordinary. As the heavy wooden door creaked open, reality seemed to bend and twist, revealing a vast chamber that defied all physical laws. Countless carousel animals, frozen in eternal motion, sparkled under ethereal lights that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The air hummed with an ancient power, thick with the scent of aged wood and forgotten dreams. As they ventured deeper into the impossible space, Shadow noticed other figures emerging from the shadows, gods both familiar and strange, each drawn to this nexus of power like moths to a flame. The carousel's music box melody grew louder, its notes carrying whispers of old worlds and lost beliefs. Mr. Wednesday's eyes gleamed with anticipation as he gathered his allies, their forms shifting between human and divine in the dancing lights. But something felt wrong. In the corners of Shadow's vision, modern technology flickered and glitched, suggesting they weren't alone in this sacred space. As the meeting of gods commenced, Shadow caught glimpses of darker shapes moving in the periphery, and the carousel's cheerful tune began to take on a more sinister tone. The gathering reached its crescendo when Mr. Wednesday revealed his true purpose. But before he could finish, the lights suddenly dimmed, and through the maze of mirrors and mechanical wonders, Shadow spotted a figure that shouldn't have been there, wearing a smile that promised trouble. The air grew thick with tension as ancient powers prepared for confrontation in this pocket universe of wonder and danger. The bitter winds howled across Lakeside as Shadow found himself settling into an unexpected routine. The small apartment above the library became his sanctuary during the harshest winter he'd ever experienced. Each morning, he would wake to find intricate frost patterns on his windows, forming shapes that seemed to tell ancient stories. Sometimes they reminded him of Wednesday's tales, other times of something far older and more mysterious. Hinzelmann, the town's elderly storyteller, had taken a particular interest in Shadow, sharing tales by the fireplace in the local diner that seemed to warm more than just the body. But beneath the cozy exterior of this picture-perfect town, Shadow couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Children had gone missing over the years, one each winter, yet the townspeople spoke of it with an unsettling casualness. During his daily walks, Shadow began noticing peculiar details. The lake that never quite froze despite the sub-zero temperatures, the clock tower that sometimes chimed 13 times at midnight, and the way certain townspeople seemed to age backwards in old photographs at the local museum. His investigations led him to discover a pattern in the disappearances, all while Wednesday's warnings about laying low echoed in his mind. One particularly cold evening, while Shadow was practicing his coin tricks, a mysterious package arrived. Inside, he found an ancient coin and a cryptic note written in what appeared to be dried blood. The children aren't lost, they're waiting. That same night, the temperature dropped to record lows, and Shadow dreamed of Laura standing by his bed, her dead fingers trailing frost across his chest as she whispered, "The lake holds secrets, puppy. Some gods are hungrier than others." As January drew to a close, Shadow realized the town's warmth and hospitality might be masking something far more sinister. The coins he practiced with began moving on their own, spinning endlessly when he wasn't looking, and pointing toward the lake like compass needles. Meanwhile, reports of another missing child surfaced, and this time, Shadow noticed Hinselmann's eyes gleam with an unnatural light as he told yet another of his heartwarming tales. The winter's grip tightened, and with it, Shadow's certainty that he was trapped in something far more complex than a simple hiding place. The question wasn't just about surviving until spring anymore. It was about uncovering what lay beneath Lakeside's frozen surface before another child vanished into the winter's embrace. Shadow found himself wandering through the misty corridors of time itself, where the boundaries between reality and myth blurred like watercolors in rain. The ancient stories began to unfold before him, not as tales from dusty books, but as living, breathing memories that danced in the air like golden fireflies. Mr. Wednesday's true nature revealed itself through fragments of Norse sagas, each piece falling into place like an intricate puzzle. In a dimly lit tavern that seemed to exist between worlds, Shadow encountered three elderly women who spoke in riddles and wove tales of gods walking among mortals. Their words carried the weight of centuries, speaking of battles fought in realms beyond human comprehension and sacrifices made in the name of belief and survival. As they shared stories of Odin's wanderings and Loki's schemes, Shadow began to understand the deeper currents moving beneath the surface of their modern conflict. The air grew thick with the scent of mead honey and wood smoke, as tales of thunderbirds and Anansi spilled from their lips, each story connecting to the next like links in an ancient chain. But it was the tale of a forgotten god, abandoned by their worshippers and forced to adapt to the new world, that struck Shadow the deepest. In their words, he heard echoes of his own journey and glimpses of what might await him in the gathering storm. As the night deepened, one of the women fixed Shadow with a penetrating gaze and spoke of a choice he would soon face, one that would ripple through both the world of gods and men. The revelation left him shaken, but before he could ask for clarification, the tavern began to fade like morning mist, leaving him with more questions than answers and the haunting sensation that time was running out. The air crackled with anticipation as Shadow stood atop the ancient burial mound, watching storm clouds gather in impossible patterns across the darkening sky. Wednesday's preparations had led them all to this moment, and the weight of destiny hung heavy in the air like static before lightning. Around him, gods both old and new began to converge, their true forms flickering beneath their human disguises like heat waves on hot asphalt. Mr. Nancy appeared beside him, his golden suit somehow catching light that wasn't there, spinning tales of battles long past, while Technical Boy's digital apparitions danced through the gathering dusk. Laura's cold presence lingered at the edge of Shadow's awareness, her dead heart still somehow beating with purpose. As the wind picked up, carrying whispers of ancient prayers and modern mantras, Shadow felt the coin in his pocket grow warm. The piece of the sun that had once belonged to Mad Sweeney seemed to pulse in rhythm with the approaching thunder. Below the mound, in the small town's empty streets, Christmas lights flickered erratically, and neon signs hummed with unusual intensity. Chernobog emerged from the shadows, his bloody hammer gleaming with remembered violence, while media's presence manifested through every screen and speaker in a half-mile radius, her voice a symphony of famous quotes and forgotten commercials. The coming battle would reshape the very fabric of American belief, and Shadow could feel each thread of faith stretching to its breaking point. As Wednesday made his final preparations in the old hotel room, surrounded by maps marked with mysterious symbols and ancient artifacts, Shadow noticed something that made his blood run cold. In the corner of one map, written in what looked like fresh blood, was a message he wasn't meant to see, one that suggested Wednesday's endgame was far darker than anyone had imagined. But before he could process its implications, the first thundercracks split the sky, and the gods began to show their true faces. The storm was no longer coming. It was here. The air crackled with ancient power as Shadow stood atop the ash tree at the center of America. Below him, the gathering storm of gods both old and new swirled in a deadly dance of destiny. Wednesday's grand scheme had finally unfolded, revealing layers of deception that even the most cunning of gods hadn't anticipated. The battlefield stretched across the ethereal plain, where neon signs clashed with ancient runes, and business suits merged with ceremonial robes. Mr. World's forces, gleaming with modern efficiency, faced off against the weathered but determined old gods, their powers manifesting in ways that bent reality itself. Laura, still walking the line between life and death, emerged from the shadows at a crucial moment, her presence altering the course of destiny itself. As Thunderboy's sacrifice echoed through the branches of the world tree, Shadow finally understood the true nature of his role, not as a pawn, but as the fulcrum upon which the fate of divinity itself balanced. The sky above turned impossible colors as Technical Boy's digital army began to glitch and fade, their powers wavering as belief systems crashed and rebooted. Mad Sweeney's final coin trick rippled through the fabric of reality, creating a cascade of consequences that no one, not even Mr. Nancy with all his stories, could have predicted. In the end, It wasn't the clash of gods that determined the outcome, but the quiet truth Shadow had carried within him all along. As the dust settled and the boundaries between the divine and mundane blurred once more, America's gods found themselves transformed, not destroyed or victorious, but changed in ways that would echo through centuries to come. The final coin toss hung in the air, spinning between worlds, between beliefs, between what was and what could be, carrying with it the weight of 1,000 forgotten prayers and the promise of tomorrow's dreams.